Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a throwaway account in the AITAH subreddit. The post is titled, "My husband is better than my best friend's husband." I'm writing this post because my best friend Kate's husband, Bert, called my husband Tim a jerk. I have historically kept my opinion of Bert's behavior to a minimum on the grounds that good friends say their piece once and then love each other through difficult relationships, but I'm asking internet strangers to be the judge. I am traveling for work. Kate is stuck at home at 7 months pregnant on modified bed rest. Generally, during the week, I drop over once or twice to bring her family some dinner, cheer her up, and read her oldest a couple of bedtime stories so that mom can go to bed early and get some sleep. Bert works an office job, stressful I'm sure, but during her pregnancy, he's been working longer and longer hours. She's been sad and a bit lonely. Yes, I've suggested counseling. With that background, this evening she and I were texting. It was about 6 p.m. and she got a craving for a taco place near my house and, importantly, near Bert's office. She says she asked him to grab her some on his way home. He says he's not stopping. He's got work at home and she should just order something via DoorDash. This makes her extremely sad because he used to surprise her with her favorite tacos and now he can't be bothered. As one does, I tell Tim I'm 3 states away, so it was just part of our chat as I was getting back to the hotel and getting ready for a work dinner. I get back from dinner and Tim had gone and picked her up tacos, remembered the bag of things I'd collected for her and the kid that were in my car, and pulled a tuna casserole from the freezer. He dropped them off on the porch and just texted her that there were some things I wanted her to have. Then Bert gets home. Did he bring tacos, coloring books, or a good attitude? No, he did not. He called Tim to tell him that he was an asshole for showing him up. Other colorful language was also used, including some fairly sexist nonsense. He also texted me telling me to keep my husband away from his wife. Tim did respond rudely when Bert called. Kate says he told Bert he was a failure as a human, a man, a father, and a husband. Apparently, that caused Bert to scream expletives so loud their daughter started to cry. Not good. Tim then hung up on Bert, blocked him, and texted Kate that if she needed someone in an emergency, she knew where to call, but he wasn't putting up with her shit husband any longer. It's a giant cluster, and I have no idea what's going to happen. My husband feels bad things escalated so much, particularly since their daughter was crying. He feels like an asshole at the moment. Obviously, Bert thinks he's an asshole. I think he's a sweet man. What do you guys think? User Nerdy Swamp Witch said NTA. Bert is the only jerk in this situation. Also, $5 says Bert didn't want to stop for tacos because he has not been staying late at the office, and he was nowhere near the good taco place. Bert is getting shown up because he isn't even making an effort to be a supportive partner and husband. He's sending a brain-damaged carrier pigeon. Kate needs to rethink if this is what she wants for her and her kids long term. Is this the model of a relationship she wants them to see? An angry asshole who ignores an easy request from his pregnant partner and then lashes out when a friend helps? User Organic Mix said, her husband is a huge, insecure, nasty, petty, possibly cheating dickhead. Your husband is amazing. User J Scarlett said NTA. Bert refused Kate's request. He said he was too busy for any family obligations, which sets the bar incredibly low for anyone to show him up. To be salaried and a slave to your job, having to leave the office and then go home to get straight to work sounds kind of sus. People need to eat. People need to poop. Is he not at the office and rushing home to catch up on work? The dude couldn't take 5 minutes to pull over and grab the food that Kate could have called for pickup? Don't ignore your husband and provider duties, then be pissed off when someone treats your wife. The person you pledge to love and cherish in sickness and in health, till death do you part, as a respected human being. She's making humans in her belly. You can't get her a damn taco. Bert is a failure as a human. Update. Bert did email Tim this morning to apologize. He said he had forgotten I was out of town and didn't realize that Tim was dropping off the meal train food. It was a weird email for many reasons, but Tim responded politely, if non-committal. Tim hasn't changed his view of Bert, in part because of what happened between Bert and Kate this afternoon. Bert also texted me to apologize, but I didn't get his message until after I landed, and by then everything else had happened. I've elected not to respond. Bert went home around noon after staying at a hotel last night. Kate's sister had taken their daughter to the park so Bert and Kate could talk it out. The short version is that Bert has been avoiding Kate because she's not happy during this pregnancy. I mentioned in a comment that Kate had been married previously, and shortly after her first husband died, she had complications in a pregnancy that forced her on bed rest. Unfortunately, her son didn't make it. Her current pregnancy is bringing up a lot of painful memories, and she's scared she won't be able to carry to full term. So yes, she's not as cheerful as she was when she was pregnant with their daughter. It's a difficult time. Bert is frustrated and angry that she's not happy, so he's been staying late and ignoring her until she stops feeling that way. I know that sounds horrid, but I think they could have worked through those feelings. However, as he was explaining how he felt, he said she should be glad her son wasn't there because otherwise she wouldn't have this life at all. Yeah, that still knocks the wind out of me. It's so cruel. She did talk to him about that statement, but the explanation didn't get any better. In any event, for her, that was just the end. She told him she was done. They can work out joint custody, but the marriage is over. She called her sister, and she and her husband encouraged Bert to leave. Currently, Kate's not angry or sad or panicked. She's just done. Personally, I'm surprised since they've weathered some fairly difficult things, including infidelity. In any event, her D&D friends are over for Saturday game night and they are eating waffles. In terms of her well-being, which many kind souls were worried about, they have a prenup. The house is hers. His family property is his. I'm sure there will be a fight over custody, but she will be financially okay. In any event, she has family and friends who will help and support her regardless of what happens. Update 2. Kate and Bert are still separated. It took her a few weeks, but she finally spoke to her attorney and asked them to start the paperwork. One problem has been locating him for service and scheduling parenting time, so it wouldn't appear that she is withholding his child. The night he was escorted out, he apparently went to a hotel, then told his boss he had to work remotely, and then moved home to his mother. Kate has reached out to him multiple times to schedule parenting time and only found out last week that he wasn't in the state. She finally called his mom to see if she wanted to come and see her grandchild for Thanksgiving and learned that he was there the entire time. In any event, they finally made a parenting schedule and at her attorney's suggestion agreed he could have the first holiday since the separation. He was supposed to come down on Wednesday and pick up their daughter for a few days so she could spend time with his side of the family. So we planned a Friendsgiving to keep her spirits up since her little one would be away for the first time. Fun? Not fun, but it's what families do. Anyway, he didn't show. Thursday morning, still no Bert. Kate was worried since he was supposed to drive down, so she called his mom again. Bert was fine, but didn't feel up to dealing with this. Yup, heard it myself with my own 2 ears. Kiddo was thankfully still asleep, so she didn't have the joy of watching her mom have a complete and utter meltdown. Kate didn't have the greatest childhood herself, and knowing her POS husband was completely indifferent to his daughter was just too much. She was sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe and then started to have contractions. Then her sister and I started panicking. Had we been thinking clearly, we probably would have remembered that she had Braxton Hicks contractions with both pregnancies and calmly assessed the situation after she wasn't so overwrought. Instead, I panic dialed her OB and we rushed her to the hospital. She's fine. Baby is fine. Kiddo has now had more screen time and junk food in 2 days than her mother has let her have in her entire life, because I am not a great babysitter. Kate will be in the hospital for a few more days as her OB is concerned with her stress levels. Her sister's husband called Bert, but thus far he has not made any attempts to do something useful like, I don't know, take care of his own child. So I guess there won't be a fight over custody. A shitty update, but it's been a shitty weekend. If anyone knows how to cheer up a little girl who is missing her parents that doesn't involve McDonald's and Bluey, please let me know. If there were still Toys R Us, I'd probably be bankrupt. Edit. Thank you all for the suggestions. I had a sewing room full of supplies and hadn't even thought of crafts. We spent all day today designing and making doll clothes and matching scrunchies for her, her mom, her aunt, uncle, cousin, etc. She's happy and tired, and I couldn't be more grateful for internet strangers. On the less good news, Kate is going to be in the hospital for the duration. She and the baby are fine, but due to some complications, they want her to stay there until she delivers. Kiddo is staying with us until tomorrow, but she'll be heading back to sister's place tomorrow night. Kate wants her to have as much normalcy as feasible. I'm still worried, but the doctors are great and seem to have it under control. User Writing Romance said, "My money is on Bert being happy as a clam that he can now be with his side piece without any burdens. That will be short-lived, and he's going to try to win her back as soon as he sees how much he has to pay for child support. Document all of the attempts to give him access and the failures on his part. It will help her custody battle and ultimately cause him to pay more support." User Strange Life Dad said, as a single father with a deadbeat mother of the child, it is actually not the worst update. Sure, your friend in the hospital is absolutely in a tough situation, but at least her soon-to-be ex showed his true colors early. Document anything and everything for the custody proceedings. Really do it. Phone calls, messages, emails, and any possible in-person contact. It's hard to be a single parent, but it's better than having a deadbeat jerk around. Let the lawyer handle communication. I hope your friend is okay and that she will figure it out. She has a support system after all, and that is the most important thing. This next post was made in the same subreddit by a user named Past House. The post is titled AITAH for being disgusted and just saying okay when my fiance broke up with me. I had been with my fiance Alex since 2020. We met at a friend's party, hit it off, and had been together ever since. He finished his doctorate in economics just last year. Since then, he has been working at the university. I have my master's in media sciences and decided to start working instead of pursuing a PhD. Okay, so the problem is that Alex broke up with me last Monday. It was literally surreal and honestly just weird. For the past few months, he'd been acting strange. He was making demands and then dropping them immediately. A few examples, he told me we were going to paint our walls from dark green back to white. When I asked why, he just said, "For sake, forget it," and never brought it up again, even when I asked. Another time, he came home and got mad because I was sitting on the couch with my head covered in a blanket. He was upset because I was just sitting there watching Netflix. When I tried to talk about it, he said, "Forget it, it's not a big deal." This kind of thing became common. Every time I tried to communicate or figure out what was going on, whether it was something I did or maybe he was just stressed at work, he would just say everything was fine, but he was clearly seething with rage. I didn't even have to do anything. He would find something to complain about. So I gave him space, which apparently was also wrong. I told him I was going to help my parents with repairs for a few days, and somehow that was also wrong because he wanted to renovate the apartment too. Then on Monday, I got a text saying we needed to talk. I knew what was coming, and after the last few months, I had made peace with it. When I came home, he was sitting on the couch. He didn't even wait for me to take off my jacket before saying, "I want to break up." Then the verbal diarrhea started. He told me he resented me, first because I didn't pursue my academic career further, even though I was capable, and he didn't want to upset me at the time. Then when I started making more money, he felt like I should have the last word financially, and he hated it. Mind you, I never said anything like it's my money, so I have the final say. That's a rule he imposed on himself, and he hated it. He said he hated our paint scheme, the couch, and even our crock pot. Then he told me he had rejected a better PhD program to stay here because I had already started my job by the time he received the acceptance letters. However, he never told me he had even applied overseas. He said that a few months ago he checked in with a friend who's in that program, saw how they were thriving, and decided that I ruined his life. He claimed I had too much control over his life and that he hated the idea that I could just decide not to pay for things and screw him over. He also said he hated that all his friends loved me and didn't let him vent about me. Then he said again, "I'm done." I was floored. I had already made peace with the idea that we were ending and it hurt, but after that rant, I was just disgusted. I looked at him, probably with a disgusted expression, and said, "Okay." He lost it. He said this was exactly what he meant, that it was horrible. We had been together for 4 years, and all I had to say was okay to our breakup. I asked if he wanted to stay here while he figured out where to go. He replied, "Typical, of course you're holding the apartment over me," and started ranting again, so I just left. I told my parents, and they're also confused. My dad suggested I reach out to our landlord and explain the situation to see what options I have. I can keep paying the rent myself without any problem. He covered the utilities and some subscriptions. Just to reiterate, I never had a problem with this arrangement. I saw that he was chasing his dream, and that was more important to me than a 50-50 financial split. I make good money and am happy at my job. I never saw it as slaving away. I always had the mentality that my money was our money because we were building a life together. Of course, I had my own savings and fun money, but I honestly never cared. As long as I felt he was working towards something and wasn't taking advantage of me, I was fine with it. More than fine. Alex is still mad. He's alternating between texting me like a robot about the logistics of the split and being a seething asshole complaining about everything. I'm not even hurt anymore. I just feel nauseated by him at this point. I don't know. Should I have reacted differently? User Dan19 said, dude basically hates himself for decisions he made without ever consulting you. He chose his comforts, but now that others seem to be in a better position, he is venting on you and making you the culprit. NTA, but your man has a little brain and doesn't know what to do with it. To this, OP said, I would have supported him if he wanted to move away. I don't know if we would have stayed together because long distance relationships are hard, but I would have been 100% supportive. User Ready Zombie said, your response was similar to what I would have probably said in the same situation. He pretty much said, I hate everything, you've ruined my life, blah blah blah. What else is there to say other than okay? It's not as if he left the door open to work on your issues, he just ranted at you and said he was done. End of conversation. User The Next Hokage said, sounds like his ego couldn't handle you being the breadwinner. Not your problem. He could have communicated like an adult rather than seething in his own insecurities. He sounds emotionally weak. Update. To start, Alex moved out pretty quickly after the breakup. He has been staying with a friend and we sorted out everything like mail, subscriptions, and the lease. I'm also in the process of adopting a cat. Her name is Luna, but I have been thinking about changing it since my family already has 2 pets named Luna, Moon, and Kamar. She is still at her foster home for now, but I have visited her a few times and I already adore her. She is a scrappy little tabby who follows her foster mom around like a shadow, and I can't wait for her to move in during the first week of December. I've already gotten her bowls, toys, and a bed by the window ready. Now on to what happened. Last week, I was out showing someone around the city. He is the son of my parents' friends who recently moved here for work. My parents asked me to help him get familiar with the area, so I agreed. It was nothing special, just walking around, grabbing coffee, and pointing out useful spots in the city. Apparently, Alex saw us. I didn't even realize he was there, but later that night, I started getting texts from an unknown number. I guess he got a new number since I blocked his old one. The texts were just weird. He accused me of flaunting my new relationship in public, said I must have been seeing this guy before we broke up, and told me that everything he suspected about me was true. I didn't respond. I wasn't going to entertain his paranoia. The messages kept coming though. They went from angry to desperate, with him saying things like, at least admit you were lying to me, and was anything about us even real? It was exhausting and honestly a little scary to see how quickly he spiraled. For the record, this guy isn't my boyfriend. He's not even someone I'm interested in. He's just the son of family friends who needed help settling into the city. The whole thing was completely innocent, but Alex has twisted it into some kind of betrayal in his head. What gets me is how little Alex seems to know me. I'm not the type of person to jump into a relationship so soon after everything that happened. Even if I were, it wouldn't be any of his business. We are done. I've made that clear. After I didn't respond to his text, Alex started calling. I didn't pick up, but the voicemails were a mix of angry rants and desperate pleas. I ended up blocking his new number too. It feels ridiculous that I have to keep doing this, but I guess this is where we are now. Then, this weekend, I went out to a bar with my friends. A few hours in, guess who walked in? Alex. I don't know if it was a coincidence or if he followed me there, but as soon as he spotted me, he came straight over. He was clearly upset, asking to talk, and I told him no. My friend stepped in and thankfully he left without causing a scene, but it ruined my night. It felt like I couldn't escape him, no matter where I went or what I did. When I got home later that night, I was completely drained. I had just started to relax when I heard a knock on my door. It was Alex standing there in tears. He started crying, saying he missed me, that he didn't understand why I was doing this to him, and that he didn't know how to move on. It was like all the anger from earlier had been replaced with this desperate sadness. I didn't let him in. I told him he needed to leave, and if he didn't, I would call someone to make him leave. He begged me to listen, but I just closed the door. I spent the rest of the night feeling shaken and honestly a little scared. I don't know what he's going through. I wrote to his best friend about the situation and asked him to talk to Alex. He said he would. I'm seriously considering getting a new phone number and possibly even talking to someone about how to handle this legally if it keeps happening. It feels unfair that I have to go to these lengths just to have some peace, but I don't see another option. Final update. Thanks for the concern and support I've received. I'm fine. Really. A lot of people suggested things like getting a restraining order, but I just want to clarify that it's not as simple as walking into an office and asking for one. The process involves proving there's an immediate danger to your safety, providing evidence like texts, calls, or witnesses, and then attending court to get approval. It's not something you can do lightly or without solid proof. And no, I'm obviously not getting a gun. I've also seen people diagnosing Alex with various mental health issues, and I want to ask everyone to stop. Yes, something is clearly wrong, but I'm not a doctor, and neither are most of you. It's not fair or helpful to label him with something like bipolar disorder or anything else without real expertise. For what it's worth, I don't actually feel like I'm in danger. In the past month, these were the only 3 incidents that happened. I don't think he's actively stalking me so much as he just knew my patterns. The bar we were at is my favorite spot, and it was a party for one of my closest friends, so it makes sense that he might have guessed I'd be there. When he showed up at my apartment, he knew what time I usually got home. The city tour is the only thing that might have been more intentional, but it could also have been a coincidence that triggered everything. Anyway, this is the end of it. Yesterday, Alex came over with his mom and one of his friends. At first, I didn't want to let him in, but he promised me that this would be the last time I ever saw him. I agreed, mostly because his mom and friend were there, and I figured it would be more awkward to argue on my doorstep. When we sat down, Alex admitted that he was going through a crisis. He told me he was mad at me but didn't know why. He said he doesn't like me, that I annoy him, but that he weirdly still loves me, which is why he went crazy when he saw me with someone else. He assured me there wasn't anyone else on his end either. He said he felt like he was going insane. He talked about how he feels judged for being older and not being able to give me the life he thinks I deserve. He said he hates his colleagues, hates his job, hates everything right now, and that everyone and everything annoys him. He told me he feels old and like he should want kids at this point in his life, but he doesn't, and that thought terrifies him. He said he just wants to be alone and not talk to anyone for a while. I didn't say much. I mostly just nodded because I didn't know what to say. After he was done, he told me he was leaving. He's on some kind of mental health leave from work and said he's leaving the country on Sunday. He's going to South America to spend time in nature and find himself. He thanked me for everything and said he was sorry for how he acted. Then he just got up, grabbed the few things he had left at my place, and walked out. His mom was inconsolable. She kept apologizing to me over and over, saying how embarrassed she was by his behavior. I told her it was okay and that she didn't need to apologize for him. She cried a lot, and his friend ended up driving her home after Alex left. I don't really know how I feel about all of this. Part of me is relieved that it's over. Part of me feels sad for him because he clearly doesn't know how to deal with everything he's feeling. Mostly though, I just feel tired. I'm glad he's taking steps to figure himself out, but it's not my responsibility anymore. User Alice said, "It was never you, it's just his midlife crisis where he hates everything and tries to blame it on you. But once you left and the feelings remained, he had no choice but to realize that he hates himself." User B-Shirt said, "This is such a him problem. You've got the right idea. There's nothing you did wrong, and the best thing is that he's not your responsibility anymore. Sometimes a person can look at their life and just need to walk away. For you, it's irreconcilable differences. For him, he needs to figure himself out, and removing himself from your life is a good thing." User LT Soba said, "Is anyone else seeing the red flags with his feelings of being judged and hated about his age and lack of kids, as well as how his mom came along for the apology? I know it's nothing concrete, but it's rubbing me the wrong way. And the visiting South America part, I'm getting some major dodgy vibes here. It seems like the dude is definitely having some sort of nervous breakdown. He should be seeing a therapist instead of going halfway across the country away from any support.